Hello and welcome to the Friday Show with CJ Werleman, presented by Inside Arabia. I'm your host, CJ Werleman. Join us here every Friday for a breakdown of some of Inside Arabia's coverage and analysis on the MENA region. And make sure to subscribe to this channel so you never miss a single episode. Today we'll examine the resurgence of the terror group Daesh in the Levant, the economic turmoil threatening Tunisia's fledgling democracy, and the US government's troubling silence towards the persecution of Muslims in India. Now let's get started. We begin with Christopher Solomon's analysis of Daesh in the wake of the recent killing of the terror group's second leader, Abu Ibrahim al-Qurayshi, by US forces in Syria earlier this month. Solomon argues that ever-changing realities on the ground means the self-proclaimed Islamic State that we will come to know in 2025 will likely be vastly different from the one we knew in 2015. But the reality is this, that while conflicts remain ongoing, with diplomatic and humanitarian efforts stalled, the Islamic State will not only continue to find ungoverned spaces to operate in, but also will evolve and adapt to the political situation in Iraq and Syria, in the same way Al-Qaeda's Syrian franchise Jabhat al-Nusra embedded itself amongst anti-Assad rebels before swallowing up most of these groups up in a single governing organization known today as Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. Christopher Solomon says Daesh could slowly begin to rebrand itself in a similar fashion, to ease the military pressure it faces and attract new recruits from other jihadist groups. But ultimately, its viability will depend on its ability to recapture and hold territory. Therefore, it's of paramount importance the United States and its Arab partners make a concerted effort to resolve issues relating to the squalid conditions family members of imprisoned and slain Daesh fighters endure in refugee camps in northwestern Syria, where starvation, disease, and a sense of hopelessness stalk young children, who are there for no fault of their own. To ignore the plight of these imprisoned and listless children is not only callous and heartless, but also provides an opportunity for Daesh and other violent extremist groups to prey upon them as their next generation of recruits. The international community must not forget that humanitarian aid, political stability, local reconciliation, and economic recovery are the most important tools in the fight against terrorism. Now let's turn to Alessandro Bruno's analysis regarding the state of democracy in Tunisia since the 2010 revolution, which put an end to the rule of the dictator Ben Ali. Rather than prosperity and tranquility, however, Tunisians have experienced only economic malaise and political turmoil, which in turn has undermined the country's transition to democracy. In short, the Arab Spring has become an Arab winter, as Tunisians struggle with high unemployment, skyrocketing public debt, and political fragmentation, which has created space for anti-democratic forces to fill the vacuum, including the current president Kais Saied, who is inching the country back towards authoritarian rule. Bruno observes how Saied has harnessed his skill as a trained constitutional lawyer to unravel the country's democratic institutions inch by inch, and in a way that much of Tunisian society doesn't notice or even care, hiding behind his reputation as a tough decision maker who gets stuff done. His political opponents, however, have rightly accused the president of using the COVID pandemic to stage a soft coup, having invoked emergency powers to consolidate his rule, a ruse used by all wannabe dictators. In July of last year, Saied invoked Article 80 of the Constitution to suspend Parliament and sack the Prime Minister in a move condemned as an attack on democracy by his rivals, but one curiously praised by the UAE and Saudi Arabia. Clearly, if Tunisia's democratic experiment is to survive, then the country will need significant economic support from the international community, because as history has proven, time and time again, fledgling democracies are unable to withstand the consequences of economic turmoil. Finally, we come to my most recent article, in which I slam the Biden administration for refusing to condemn the Indian state's persecution of its Muslim minority. This silence comes as bona fide experts, including Dr. Gregory Stanton, a man who predicted the Rwandan genocide more than 2 years before it occurred in 1994, are warning that preparation for genocide in India and Kashmir is now well underway. In the 7 years Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his political party have held power, India has recorded a year-on-year upward surge in hate crimes by Hindu nationalist organizations and individuals tied to the Indian government. A regime that has not only chipped away at the rights of Muslims through the passage of discriminatory laws, but also has tacitly encouraged anti-Muslim violence. It's important to note here that both Modi and his party draw their ideological inspiration from European fascist movements of the 20th century, including the Nazi Party. Remember also that Modi was once banned from the US after his rhetoric and actions as Chief Minister of Gujarat incited the 2002 communal riots which left more than 1,500 Muslims hacked and burned to death. But President Biden refuses to offer a single word of condemnation towards the Modi government's mistreatment of Muslims or its unconstitutional stripping of Kashmir's semi-autonomous status. And it's not as though Biden complete ignorance here, given CNN, Washington Post and the New York Times have each reported the recent and ongoing crackdown on hijab-wearing college students. As such, we call on the US President to condemn the Indian state's human rights violations against Muslims using the same vim and vigour he used to condemn the Chinese government's persecution of its Muslim minority, the Uyghur people of Xinjiang. You can find all three of these articles and more on InsideArabia.com. And make sure to follow Inside Arabia on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Anyway, that's my time for today. This has been the Friday Show with CJ Werleman. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next week, same day and same channel.